work, and I'll look, but I think all of the posters are black and white. I'm probably wrong on that, but most of these are, all of these on the PowerPoint are black and white. In his lifetime, he made 448 lithographs, which is when you make a plate and then you cover it with grease, you wipe the grease off, and then you put the paper on it and roll over it, and that's your lithograph. So 448 different lithographs, woodcuts and wood drawings, and over 2,000 drawings and sketches. So he was pretty prolific. He created many images that use reflection to represent multiple realities in one image. So this could be 3 balls sitting on a table, but you also get the reality of somebody sitting, at home or in a restaurant at a table as well. So you see different things in his images. He was also a lover of nature. He would often take a break from his sessions in his studio to walk in the woods. So these realistic depictions of the natural world are the result of his walks and show his many perspectives at once. This artwork is titled 3 Worlds, and you can ask the kids if they see what the worlds are. So the first world are the trees and the sky, and the second world are the leaves on the water, and the third world is the fish underneath. So that was really his thing, is he just wanted to give as many perspectives as he could at one time. He frequently included reflective surfaces in his artwork. By depicting these images, he was able to represent multiple perspectives. I think I already said that in one image. This artwork captures multiple images as well. You get the dirt, and you get the water in the puddle, and then you get the sky and the earth as well. Good stuff, right? Okay, while he was traveling in Europe, he was inspired by the tessellating geometric patterns he observed in the Alhambra. It's a palace in Granada? You say Grenada, I say Granada. Much of it was built in the 14th century, and he was totally amazed by it. And so that his artwork started to change into tessellations. He used them when he was creating his metamorphosis prints. So this is a good example of how we start out with birds and we become fish at the end. Pretty cool. And if you stare at these a little too long, you get a little crazy, so I don't recommend it. Then you can ask the kids how was he able to create these transitions. See if any of them could come up with a reason why. It's fun to see what the kids have to say. His idea of metamorphosis, one shape or object turning into something completely different. You can use the example of a caterpillar into a butterfly. Some of those kids have already studied that, the younger ones not so much. But you can tell them that's called metamorphosis and ask them if they can say it. It's kind of a fun thing to do. Let's see. It was one of his favorite things to depict, metamorphosis. Then you can talk about, this starts out as birds, then it becomes land, a chestnut. You can just ask them how it changes for them, what they see, how it changes for them. Let's see what this one says. This is flying birds, and then it becomes fish. There's not a whole lot to it, but just another, and you also have the negative and positive space, so you have black and white, and they're the same image. A lot of times you don't recognize it because sometimes one will have an eye and the other one won't, but they are the same images. So for kids to figure that out, it's kind of cool. This is just questions, more questions. This is another metamorphosis. It's lizards crawling off the page onto the desk and then coming right back to the page. This is when he started to get into his optical illusion paintings or drawings. And he liked to create images that were visual puzzles. So you really do have to think, how does this work? And I think the next one will show you. This is one of his puzzles. He didn't study architecture, but you see the influences in his work. And you can talk about architecture really shows how math is present in art. And since he had such a strong love for architecture, we do see a lot of it in his work. He increasingly explored complex architectural and the representation of impossible spaces. This could not be built. This is called ascending and descending. This is an optical illusion. He made impossible buildings, which at first look real, but the more you look at it, you realize it can't be real. Happy birthday, Cesar!
Thank you.
Oh. It's Brian's birthday.
Every day is Cesar's birthday.
Oh.
So this is probably the most recognizable Escher. This is a conflict between the two-dimensional shirt cuffs and the three-dimensional hands. Which came first, the chicken or the egg, the hand or the cuff? So you can have the kids look at that and ask questions about it. I think it's pretty cool. Mathematicians loved his work because there were so many mathematical principles in his work. They began to consider his work important late in his life. His work went almost unnoticed until the 1950s, so he spent a good portion of his life just as a struggling artist. He also was sick when he was younger, which that just seems to be a theme. A lot of our artists are sick, bedridden as children, and then they find art to save their lives, I guess. In 1965, he was given his first exhibition. It was written up in Time magazine, and that's how he acquired his worldwide reputation. And then he died in March in 1972. I do not know how he died. I know he died in a senior home, and he had a room and like a living space, and he also had a studio. So he created artwork right up until his death. So I will have a tweaked PowerPoint. So it will look similar to this, but you will actually see the bullet points on the screen. So when you're presenting to the kids, you can just read it. So thank you for that word.
You're welcome.
So are there any questions about Escher? No questions? Okay, let's get to our projects.